The long-term success of Terraria is truly something to be celebrated. A game that has gone through so many iterations and received so much free post-launch support is bound to have its fans returning again and again to check out what is new. Its inherent replayability is also a large factor. Having randomly generated worlds and encounters creates emergent storytelling that us fans can't help but look back fondly on. If you ask me though, I would say that the modding scene has contributed a significant amount to the lifespan of the game, creating content that meshes well with the aesthetic and vibe of the game and greatly enhancing the player's experience. With the selection of mods on offer, it's easy for anyone to tailor their gameplay experience to their own tastes. Launching into the Steam Workshop or into the in-game mod browser, the user is absolutely inundated by a huge range of mods. These can be gameplay overhauls, content additions, furry character models, a new gun, reskins, and sound effects. With such an avid modding scene, we can even have a quick look through the recently updated section, and we can find that in such a small time, the world has been graced with so many mods. There are even mods that mod mods, like this one, providing a Mandarin localization to the huge content mod, Calamity. This comes with a pretty big caveat of course, as there is no real moderation in a mod's quality. First time modders' creations are mixed in with the massive team-based mega mods, and it can be hard to know what to expect quality-wise. There are a few obvious tells like how many people have downloaded it, how many people worked on the mod, the screenshots, and the overall vibe of the description of the mod. I found that, typically, the more words the better. That being said, the mod I wanted to focus on during this video is a mod called Another RPG Mod. As its name suggests, it's an RPG mod. It is self-described as follows. Heavily customizable RPG mod that add levels, stats, skill tree, item leveling, enemies, rank, modifier. Now don't worry, I'm not here to dunk on a French person's English. That's not funny nor conducive to a good-spirited video on a mod that I am obsessed with. But it is a bit of an interesting start, I'll admit. We subscribe to it and then get in game. It starts just like any other playthrough. We have nothing on but the clothes on our back and our trusty starter tools and short sword. Though, if we hover over them, we can see that they now have an experience meter and also a modifier. These modifiers behave similarly to the prefixes in the game, but you cannot re-roll them. We started with some really low quality rolls, but you can get some real impressive modifiers later. Also, just out of view here is the Goliath HUD element. While a touch dramatic, it is clear what it conveys. This big red bar is for health, this small blue bar is for mana, this empty bar here is for the player's experience, and this last empty bar is for the equipped weapons experience. The core idea of this mod is to get experience for your character, weapon, and for your armor. This is done by killing enemies, dealing damage, and receiving damage respectively. When we get a player level, we can press X to open the skill tree. As you can see, it is enormous, with each branch being a different class within the game like melee, ranged, mage, etc. The first point must go into the center of the skill tree, which gives us an all-round damage boosting class. This one's equipped by default. We also receive stat points, which we can invest in the stereotypical RPG stats like vitality, focus, constitution, strength, agility, dexterity, intelligence, and spirit. They all increase the character's core stats, which will let us gain HP, armor, and damage boosts without equipping anything. There is also a skill tree for the weapon you're currently using. According to the FAQ, weapons earn 1 experience point for each point of damage dealt. This appears to be broken, as every weapon I attempted this with only gained a single point of experience for each instance of damage. Even when using the Zenith on this horde of solar enemies, I wasn't leveling up in accordance to the DPS meter's reading. Armor also levels up all the same, with each armor slot having its own skill tree. These nodes typically increase the defense or experience gain of the item, but there are other upgrades too. There are not many nodes to acquire here, but they can boost the defense of an item quite considerably. In my personal playthrough, where I was doing a copper shortsword only run, I had a set of pumpkin armor that granted an insane level of defense just because of these nodes. Once an item reaches its max level, it cannot progress anymore. At least not until you defeat a boss. Once this is done, the item ascension limit increases. This might sound like cool anime gibberish, but this just means we can level our equipment even further. The first level of this progression is extremely difficult, requiring a ton of experience to get there. Once done, the skill tree of that item is updated with more nodes. Ascending an item also grants an ascend point. These can be used in rarer nodes that have pretty awesome bonuses. This is all a lucky dip, however, as most of the items I ascended only had basic nodes. This Stardust Dragon that I definitely didn't cheat in, wink, actually had these ascended nodes, which were just substantial damage boosts. Throughout the skill tree, there are many classes to choose. In my testing, the summoning class I was using called the Soulbinder had massive bonuses to summon abilities but lowered our max health. In my Copper Shortsword run, I was a Sword Man, which had a big boost to melee damage and granted us a flat dodge chance, which is actually pretty neat for a mechanic. From here, you're probably wondering if the game will become too easy with all these free buffs, and it kinda does. There was an attempt to cushion this by capping the amount of times you can ascend weapons per boss kill, which is 1 per victory by default. The enemies also level up according to the current boss progression, making them stronger and dropping more experience. The player also begins to get diminishing returns on experience if they're too high level for the enemies they're killing, just like an MMO. You can see here that I'm only getting 1 experience per enemy, and their levels are much lower than mine. Enemies can also have modifiers, which give them unique traits that make them a threat. They can be berserkers, dealing more damage as they lose health, vampires draining health on hit, and clustered splitting into multiple enemies on death, just to name a few. They can also spawn with this monstrosity of a name, which has all the effects in one, while also having massively increased health and damage. In case you're wondering, I do actually manage to defeat it with only a Copper Shortsword. Now, I've made this video because I wanted to get the word out on something that I've been obsessed with. The Copper Shortsword run spanned many sessions of recording, even with the buggy nature of weapon progression. I loved how my pumpkin armor was so broken, and I loved investing into my skills, getting thousands of HP in a game where you only really get 400. I really like this particular mod, and I'm hoping that the good aspects shine through the issues I'm having with it. I recommend people try it out and try not to take it too seriously and see how you feel about it. That's all for today. I just want to do a small video in between the Infernum streams. If you're interested, join the Discord in the description for updates about future streams. They will be made into a proper video or 2 on completion, so stay tuned for that. And I'll even do some other small videos in between those too. Who knows? Peace.